is brought to you by the Arkansas Farm Bureau, the Arkansas State Chamber of Commerce and Associated Industries of Arkansas, the Electric Cooperatives of Arkansas, Noble Strategies, the Arkansas Healthcare Association, and Delta Trust and Bank.
I'm Roby Brock. Welcome to this edition of Talk Business Arkansas's Daily Update. There was a lot of movement on the Medicaid front at the state capitol over the last 24 hours, but first, we're going to take a look at some business headlines. Tyson Foods said Tuesday that its second fiscal quarter has been more challenging than anticipated thanks to shrinking profit margins. The meat giant joins the likes of Walmart and Darden restaurants in issuing near-term caution in recent days. The cautious tone was different than that shared with analysts less than a month ago during the company's earnings call, and investors took note. The company's stock took a hit in trading as a result. Friday is the deadline for Congress and President Obama to come to a compromise on averting automatic budget cuts, also called sequestration. It's enacted through the Budget Control Act of 2011. If no compromise is reached, automatic budget cuts of more than $85 billion will automatically be enacted across the entire federal budget that totals more than $3.5 trillion. Information provided by the White House details only minor cuts to certain programs in Arkansas, a far cry from the doomsday scenarios being portrayed in the media by members of both political parties. We've got more on the subject at our website, talkbusinessarkansas.com. Senate President Michael Lamoureux and House Speaker Davy Carter released a memo disclosing they've hired two economic groups to review the $1.1 billion steel mill super project announced last month. Under provisions of Amendment 82, the state's super project law, legislators must independently analyze provisions of the deal. Regional Economic Models Incorporated will review the Arkansas Economic Development Commission's proposal. They'll be paid $29,000 and submit their report by March 11th. Global Insight will be paid $48,000 for its report, which is expected to be delivered to lawmakers by March 12th. Well, why two firms and what all will they cover? We've got that story for you on our website at talkbusinessarkansas.com. Now, after this word from our sponsors, I'll run through some of the highlights of what has shifted in the Medicaid debate up at the state capitol. And later in the program, Dr. Joe Thompson, Arkansas Surgeon General, joins me for a conversation to explain that in more detail and answer further questions. I'm Roby Brock. This is Talk Business.
I don't think it's going to be an easy conversation because they are very strong-willed. I think it's going to be important to us that we know that you're somewhere in a facility that looks after you, has compassion, has care, and you respect it. I mean, I'd love to look after them, I'd love to be able to take care of them, but I don't think I could. That'd be a wrong choice on my part.
Arkansas's skilled nursing and assisted living centers provide quality care for our seniors.
Farm Bureau helps protect its members in more ways than you might think. They've always been the voice of agriculture in Arkansas, working on behalf of folks like me when nobody else would. And Farm Bureau stands for the values that Arkansas families care about. They've protected my right to farm and make a living, which helps everybody who likes food on the table. You know what they say, Arkansas counts on agriculture, and agriculture counts on Farm Bureau.
The Arkansas State Chamber of Commerce and Associated Industries of Arkansas. The State Chamber AIA is the leading voice for business at the state capitol and serves as the primary business advocate on all issues affecting Arkansas employers. Our mission is to promote a pro-business, free enterprise agenda and prevent anti-business legislation, regulations, and rules. Now more than ever, business matters. Learn more at arkansasstatechamber.com.
Well, the big shakeup yesterday at the Capitol centered around Medicaid. The federal government has given Arkansas Governor Mike Beebe and state lawmakers a lot of flexibility to do things differently with the Medicaid expansion aspects of the program and the state's health insurance exchanges, all part of the federal health care law. Here's a rundown. Governor Beebe told lawmakers yesterday that federal health officials have green-lighted Arkansas's request for flexibility with its Medicaid program and health insurance exchanges, a move that could provide billions of dollars to the poor and uninsured, as well as boost the state's healthcare economy. In short, the big takeaway from BB's meeting with U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary Kathleen Sebelius over the weekend was that Arkansas does have permission to explore using Medicaid expansion funds in its forthcoming health insurance exchanges. Those exchanges that the Affordable Care Act created would allow for the uninsured to shop for subsidized health care plans in an open market system with private insurance carriers. Folks eligible under a Medicaid expansion could be steered into the health insurance exchange under the Fed's new permission. Medicaid expansion and the health insurance exchanges will begin in 2014. And all of this movement on Medicaid has created some optimism with state lawmakers. It's also created a lot of questions. I'll sit down with Dr. Joe Thompson, Arkansas Surgeon General, after this break, hopefully for some answers. I'm Roby Brock. This is Talk Business.
Noble Strategies is a bipartisan state and federal government affairs firm with a successful track record of providing effective advocacy for business, government, and nonprofit entities. Noble Strategies provides service in areas such as lobbying, public affairs, trade association management, and marketing campaigns. Learn more at noblestrat.com.
I was looking for a bank that could best protect my finances.
It shared my passion for my business's potential.
A bank that offered investment expertise,
lending support, insurance guidance.
A bank that delivered full financial support.
That's how I found True Balance.
True Balance.
From my bank.
From my bank.
Delta Trust and Bank, the expertise to meet all your financial needs.
One of the real advantages of electric cooperatives membership is having a voice in our state's energy future.
Not a week goes by without important energy issues making headlines. These are issues that need to be discussed. And you should know that as policies are being developed, the cooperatives are looking out for our members, advocating what's best for you.
We are your friends and neighbors.
We are your local electric company.
The electric cooperatives.
We are Arkansas.
I'm joined now by Dr. Joe Thompson. He is Arkansas's Surgeon General. Thanks for being with us.
Glad to be with you.
Let's talk about this, what I would call an earthquake of politics at the state capitol. Yesterday, state lawmakers, Governor Beebe, you were in this meeting, met to talk about the new flexibility that the feds have given us on Medicaid expansion, and it ties into health insurance exchanges. Give me the elevator pitch.
Well, for the last 6 weeks, we've been talking with legislators in both House and Senate, Republican and Democrats, about their concerns about the Affordable Care Act and opportunities to expand coverage. We took those together. The governor asked the secretary for a face-to-face meeting, presented the options to her team, both on the Medicaid side and on the insurance exchange side. And last Friday, in a face-to-face meeting, the governor, I think, got some enhanced flexibility that he shared with the legislators yesterday, and that we hope will offer enough support to be able to expand the coverage options that we have.
Tell me why this is a good deal financially, and is it the best deal financially to have this flexibility?
Sure. Well, I think it is a great deal if we can get support for the following reasons. Individuals will have a private health insurance card and be cared for as they would have been in the private sector if they made a much higher income. So from a consumer's perspective, they're going to have what looks and feels like private health insurance, and doctors will be paid more, hospitals will be paid a private sector rate. And for people that go across that income threshold, they won't have what was called churn, where people get kicked off Medicaid, have to go get private insurance, or vice versa. They can stay on the same plan, going up and down the income elevator, and not have to switch. Now, from a financial perspective, what the Secretary reconfirmed was that the feds were going to pay 100% of the costs for the Medicaid expansion, and that it was new information up to the state completely on what mechanism we chose to use as a delivery vehicle. So the health insurance exchange is where we got the private sector option to use the 100% federal funds to essentially buy people into a private company-run health insurance product as opposed to expand our state-run Medicaid program.
Tell me why this is a good deal politically.
Well, I think it satisfies several of the concerns, not all, but several of the concerns in that, first and foremost, we're not growing state government and expanding the number of people who are on basically a welfare card or public assistance through the Medicaid program. We are using the private sector and the efficiencies in the private sector to deliver care. For the consumer, they will get the same experience as individuals at higher incomes that are covered by private insurance companies, so they're not in a two-tiered system. The churn that I just mentioned will be minimized. The federal government is going to pay 100% of the cost and the premiums for the first 3 years, and the provider payments will be at a full cost payment, not the percentage of cost payment that the Medicaid providers are subject to today.
Does this open the state up to have to deal in that health insurance exchange with subsidies, with co-pays, something you and I have talked about before, and I'm not sure where you stand on co-pays.
One of the requests of the Senate leaders was to look at co-payments for individuals that would be on the Medicaid expansion. What we have gotten, the Secretary has given guidance to all states, is above the poverty level, we can have essentially the same co-payments as those individuals that are on the private health insurance exchange. We want to be judicious in how we use those co-payments. We want to use co-payments to steer people away from inappropriate use of the emergency room back to a primary care provider. And we don't want to have financial barriers for people getting preventive services like immunizations or breast cancer screening, other things that are very cost effective in treating care earlier. We don't want a financial reason that people would delay those preventive services. So we got some flexibility on using co-payments above the poverty level. And I think we will have the same sliding scale that was intended in the health insurance exchange on the Medicaid program.
You've got some new statistics out that kind of talk about the economic impact of expanding Medicaid. Do we call it expanding Medicaid if we're talking about pulling people into health insurance exchanges, or do we have to come up with a new phrase for what this is?
I think we'll have to see where the House and the Senate end up. I think it is not expanding Medicaid in the traditional sense. It is using federal funds through Medicaid to buy people into the private delivery system. So that's how I would frame it today. It will be named something at some point in time. I don't know what the naming.
It's got a block grant quality to it, to be honest with you.
It has a transfer financial, but the private sector delivery feel and some of the incentives set up to increase our efficiency on the delivery side. So I think those are very positive. The co-payments feel very private sector-like. Medicaid has no co-payments for the most part right now. So I think all of those lead us toward a much newer approach to how we have traditionally dealt with Medicaid.
Tell me a little bit, I mentioned earlier you've got some economic statistics that are out now. What do they tell you, this new data that you're looking at? What is it showing you in terms of when you map it across the state of Arkansas?
Two things. One is we know from our uninsured rates that we've talked about before that most of the uninsured individuals are in rural parts of the state. If you work for a large company or you have a high enough salary, you probably have insurance. Work for a smaller company at lower wage, you probably don't, and more of those are in rural parts of the state. So the benefits of expansion, both private sector through the exchange and Medicaid purchased hopefully through the exchange, will accrue to rural parts of the state. When we looked at people that were hospitalized last year, more than 12% of them had no insurance at the time of hospitalization. So that's going to be a direct benefit to rural providers, both private hospitals as well as the primary care clinics. The other thing that's important is our uninsured folks are not healthy. 50% of them have a chronic condition that's going untreated, which leads me to the last statistic, which is we're talking about 2,300 lives a year that could be saved out in the state. There's a financial aspect to this too. Because the insurance will flow to the rural parts of the state, most of the money is going to flow to the rural parts of the state. Some of our counties will have the potential to get an additional $300 to $400 per person per county each year if we do the expansion and optimize the health insurance exchange. So this is a real economic benefit to rural Arkansas as well as a life-saving benefit to individuals.
Does all of this that we're talking about, Medicaid expansion, now this shift and flow into the health insurance exchanges, how does that tie in, or does it tie in to the payment reform initiative in terms of, is there something more collaborative at work here where you've got private insurance carriers working with this public sector dollar in a way that maybe even create something that we haven't even talked about yet?
Well, as I've said before, the Affordable Care Act is almost a misnomer. It gives people an insurance card, but it did not do enough to contain costs. That's why we've launched our payment effort inside of the state and are having some success. We now have private carriers, Qual Choice, Blue Cross Blue Shield, as well as Humana, and United is going to join with the UA Systems employees. Walmart has joined as a self-insured company. So we think that the plans that are on the health insurance exchange, if we have new plans come into the state, will both want to, and we have the opportunity to require them to participate in the payment improvement effort. And I think over time, we will want to make sure that the success that we're seeing so far is translated for every plan that's operational in the state.
We have a state-federal partnership in our insurance exchange today.
Correct.
Is that what it's going to require to make all of this happen, or do you think we go back and look at a state-run option, or do you think we go full-fledged into federal option?
Well, I think we're deep into the planning process, and actually we have missed the deadline to do a state-only option to start in January 2014.
It sounds like the feds would give us flexibility to do anything, though.
Well, the governor has negotiated well, and I think pragmatically setting it up would be difficult to do because open enrollment is supposed to start in October, where people are signing up for their new health insurance plans in October of this year, just 7 months from now. Now, financially, there is an issue that the state may be better off if it was a state-only exchange. The feds have come out with rules saying that they're going to apply up to a 3.5% premium tax for plans that are either in the federal-only or the federal-state partnership. We might be able to protect our citizens from some of that federal tax if we were doing a state-only exchange, so there is an argument in the future.
Is that the HIT tax, H-I-T?
No, that's a different tax. Okay. But this is actually a premium tax for the feds to run the federal exchange.
I got you.
So there is an opportunity that if in the future we chose to pull back from a state-federal partnership, we could avoid that federal tax.
Okay.
I think it is not in the state's interest to go to a federal-only exchange because of this new opportunity with Medicaid, because we want it to be seamless for the consumer. We don't want people to have to deal with the Arkansas Medicaid program inside of a federal exchange that we've got a unique deal with Secretary Sebelius to make work for Arkansas.
All right, he's Dr. Joe Thompson. He's Arkansas's Surgeon General. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
We'll be back with another edition of Talk Business Arkansas's Daily Update tomorrow. I'm Roby Brock. Take care.
Talk Business Arkansas is brought to you by the Arkansas Farm Bureau, the Arkansas State Chamber of Commerce and Associated Industries of Arkansas, the Electric Cooperatives of Arkansas, Noble Strategies, the Arkansas Healthcare Association, and Delta Trust and Bank.